Hi, it's Manartif here. In this video, I will go through my process of creating and implementing audio to the Unity sample project adventure game.
Access denied. Access denied.
The very first thing was to get a sense of the game, so I jumped in and played the game, taking notes of what sounds needed to be crafted, thinking about the general style of audio and getting some ideas for an interactive music system. After this, the next thing was to document every animation, entity, dialogue line or area that needed audio and include them in an asset list so I had it ready for the production stage. Once I collected every piece of information that was needed, I flowed up creating the Wwise project, setting up area and dialogue states, footstep switches, etc. When the basic logic was ready to test, I added placeholder sounds to test that the interactive music system and the appropriate dialogue lines were triggered according to the player's progression. The music system in Wwise is simple. A switch controlled two playlists, the market and the security room. Inside these playlists, I created three separate music blocks that share tempo and key. To add even more variation, each block is divided into three layers. A bed that plays constantly, while the other two are randomized. In order to transition seamlessly between playlists, I had to create a separate stinger for each transition, as the market playlist tempo doubles the security room. For dialogue events, I had to keep in mind that every character could say something different depending on what items the player collected. So I set up a switch container, including the entity's dialogue lines, and this container is controlled by a switch group with all possible outcomes. I must point out that every audio file was rendered completely dry, so I could use Wwise real-time reverbs to mix them in-game, based on the area and distance to the listener. I also created a music reverb auxiliary bus, as I think it helps gluing the layers and transitions together at a very little CPU cost. When the basic logic was ready and working in Wwise, I went on to create all the assets, animations, dialogue, ambient and music cues. At this stage, it was very important to me to have a workflow where I could quickly create and iterate in the game. So I connected Reaper to Wwise and Wwise to Unity. That way, I could render the assets directly to Wwise, or open up Reaper from Wwise if I needed to edit the audio.
Ooh, some glasses!
I no longer split production into asset creation, then create the Wwise project, and finally implement in Unity. I think it's all correlated and should be prepared in a way where anyone can create an asset, test it as soon as possible, and go back to the original file quickly to make changes.
Hey Frank, you shouldn't go through without the boss's coffee.
Once I achieved that balanced mix, it was important to bring down the memory and CPU requirements for the audio. Wwise includes automated conversion settings to purpose of PCM that will lower the sampler rate of each sound to its best without noticeable changes in quality. Using different conversions for the music, dialogue and sound effects, I reduced memory reserved from 160 MB to 31. Reverbs are CPU intensive, and particularly convoluted ones. In this project, I considered and tested Wwise matrix verb and room verb, coming to the conclusion that the sound effects and dialogue sounded more natural with room verb, while the music could get away with using matrix verb. For both, I reduced their density values to 300 kilobytes of memory or less. This is the end of the video now. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.